Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone. This is CloudChartist with a weekly Ichimoku wrap-up for the week ending December 31st, really, I guess. It's Sunday night, the 3rd of January. So let's get started with the ES weekly. Let me zoom in for a closer view. Last week we saw the ES test briefly over the cloud, putting in a high of 2075, and then sold off and closed below the Tenkan-sen, but inside the cloud. So in Ichimoku terms, the ES is neutral as it's inside the cloud. What we can expect next week is for resistance to be found at the Tenkan-sen, which is currently at 2046.75. If we do make it over that 2046.75 resistance, we can expect to find resistance again at the top of the cloud at around 2067.75, 2068. And then if we do make it over the cloud, then we will be in bull territory rather than neutral territory. If we do find more sellers, we could sell down as far as potentially the Kijun-sen at 1978.63. And then potentially find support at the bottom of the cloud below at 1973.50. And if we lose that 1973.50, that's when we will descend into bear territory. We can make note also of the Chikou, this red line over here representing price action, time shifted 26 periods into the past, so 26 weeks. We see that the Chikou came up and found resistance at the Kijun-sen, which is where last week's candle opened. And so if we do sell further and the Chikou finds support, there's another level of support prior to the Kijun-sen that we could bounce at, which is around 1988. So 1988 level obviously has been important. You can see back here in the past. Important support, and then also important resistance in this time period in August and September. So going forward, we do note that the cloud reaches a slightly higher level at around 2080, 2184, 85, 84, like 2082 area here, and then makes a precipitous drop. So depending on where price action is when we get to this time period, this is like the first week in February, second week in February, we could find that cloud resistance is much lower. Cloud support is much lower down here at around 1980 and is quite thin. When the cloud is thin like this and then experiences a cloud flip here and then another cloud flip here, quite thin again, then rising to a thicker cloud, we can expect price action to be in a tighter range. That's usually what happens when we have a thin cloud. Another aspect of thin clouds is that their support is much, and resistance, if it comes to that, is much smaller. The range is much smaller and there's less support. So we get to the thickening cloud not until like the end of May. So just some stuff that could come up in the future for you. Let's move to crude. Crude has been driving the market to some extent. In fact, the ES and the crude charts have been similar intraday. So we look at last week, we did find a test of this prior high area around 38, and then we were not able to get over that level, so we sold, but we did put in an inside candle. We failed to make a higher high, but we did make a higher low, and we did close with a bit of a bottoming tail here, that 36.60 level coming into play again. Looking forward to this week's price action. If we do move higher, we don't have any real resistance up until maybe this level where this prior support and resistance came into play around 40, and then the Tenkan-sen above that at 41.45. Otherwise, we could just be making a bear flag pattern for lower. Flat Tenkan-sen tends to attract price higher, but we're still pretty far away because generally the closer you are to a flat in Ichimoku, the more attractive it becomes. Think of a magnet. All right, let's move on to some metals. Let's look at gold. Gold is bear flagging in bearish territory underneath the cloud, underneath the Tenkan-sen, and underneath the Kijun-sen. The Kijun-sen has gone flat here, suggesting potential for a bounce higher, but we will have significant resistance at the Tenkan-sen, which is currently located at 1094.10. So if we do get a bounce, I would look to short the Tenkan-sen at 1094 or wherever it happens to be when the new candle opens. So keep that in mind. If we do manage to make it over the Tenkan-sen, I would look for a price to move higher, perhaps to the Kijun-sen, where it will find resistance once again at 1118.60. So keep an eye on those levels. If we do move lower, we have this prior support at around 1055.90. And we're not that far away from it. As last week we closed at 1060.50, so only about $4. And then we have some prior lows that we put in, so not looking very bullish for gold. Let's look at silver. Similar to gold, silver is bearish under the cloud. Similar configuration with the downward sloping Tenkan-sen and the flat Kijun-sen above. So if we do move higher, look for the Tenkan-sen as a potential short point. That's currently at $14.99, so around $15. You can look to short silver or wherever the Tenkan-sen opens up. Given that we put in a very bearish candle with silver last week and closed near the lows, we could expect the Tenkan-sen to open even lower when the new candle opens up, maybe down here at the 1438 level. So wherever the Tenkan-sen is opens up for next week's candle will be where you would like to potentially initiate a short trade for a bear flag breakdown on silver. Let's look at the Dow. Dow is in neutral territory. It was unable to get above the Tenkan-sen here in the cloud, put in a big topping tail over. So that 17,457 level is important. Bulls are going to need to see that level held on a closing basis, or taken back and then held on a closing basis. And then if we do trade higher, we have the cloud offering resistance at around 17,737. If we do trade lower, we have the bottom of the cloud acting as support, which has acted as support on several prior occasions. You see it, price action hit the cloud here, then put in a bullish several weeks, and then had a big sell candle, and then this bullish candle that spanned the entire width of the cloud and closed above. Then we had another bearish candle and sent us right back down to the same level. So that bottom of the cloud level around 17,045 is key. If we do lose the cloud, then we could come down and test the Kijun-sen down below here at 16,680. There's also the Chikou here to make note of. If the Chikou finds support at the cloud, then we could find also price finding support around 17,216 there, about 17,210, that area. Okay, let's move on to the NASDAQ. NASDAQ, in contrast to the ES and the Dow, is still in bull territory. We did lose the support of the Tenkan-sen just briefly, just barely. We closed underneath the Tenkan-sen. We put in a close at 4592.50. The Tenkan-sen's at 4597.25, so only about 5 points below. So it's important, if you want to be bullish the NASDAQ, that we get back over that 4597.25 area, and if not, then we could find support again at this 4510 area, then also this 44, let's say 4479 area. The Chikou could come down and find support at the Tenkan-sen here, so we could get support at the 4444 level, and then down here at the cloud also at 4372, and then at the Kijun-sen down here at 4323.88. We see that we do have rising cloud support for the NASDAQ, which is important, as if we do sell off, we could find support at the cloud and then continue to find support as the cloud rises. That's going into February. And then we do have this precipitous drop just like the ES to keep in mind. Let's look at the Russell. Russell is bearish underneath the cloud, so not even neutral. We were unable to get over the Tenkan-sen with the Russell last week, and or we just tested briefly over the Tenkan-sen and then sold off. And so we did put in a higher high and a higher low on the Russell, but we closed in the middle of last week's candle. So there's still, the uptrend is still intact. You know, you see that we reverse trend after this bearish candle. We put in this reversal type doji, and then we did actually confirm the reversal with a higher high and a higher low. And once again, last week we did have a higher high and a higher low. So we're still in an uptrend. If we do move higher with the Russell, we are going to find resistance at the bottom of the cloud at 1164.50, and then at the Kijun-sen also at 1172.90. That would put us back into neutral territory, and we'll be in neutral territory until we get all the way up to, let's say, the 1233, 12 to 1240 area. So in order for things to get bullish again, that's where we got to get to. Note that Chikou is coming down and finding resistance at the cloud here. I'm sorry, and finding support at the cloud here. So that is potentially why we did find some buyers here and why we do have a bit of a bottoming tail on the Russell. Let's look at some treasuries. Let's look at the 30-year. Interesting. I'd forgotten that I had drawn this triangle here, but you notice that the 30-year did close underneath the bottom trend line here. Trend lines, of course, being subjective, and it did close below my trend line previously, so I can't say whether or not the trend line break is significant or not. It seems to be not particularly significant as we're still in the cloud. So we do have support on the 30-year all the way down to, this is I'm a little late in doing my video, so the new candle is opening up here, and you'll see that as I go through the rest of the charts, we will have a new candle, a little baby candle starting, so please ignore that. So we do have support all the way down to like 150.20 if the 30-year treasury bonds tend to sell. And then if we move higher, we have resistance at the Tenkan-sen, which is at 154.14, and then at the Kijun-sen at 154.27, and then we could potentially expect there to be resistance at the top of this upper trend line, which seems to be holding as a resistance area, and next week that will be at approximately 156.19. So we do need to get back out of the cloud. We do have a bear cross here. The pink line, the Kijun-sen, is crossed over the Tenkan-sen. So this is significant mostly in that because price action is below it, and it's less significant because it's over the cloud. But if you want to be bullish, the 30-year, you really want to see price action above both of those lines. The Chikou is sort of trapped between the Kijun-sen and the Tenkan-sen, so it could affect price if it comes up and tests the Kijun-sen level here. There could be another area of resistance slightly above where the Kijun-sen here is affecting current price. Let's look at the 10-year. 10-year has just been doing a bear flag here after it got rejected from the cloud. It does have a bear crossed Kijun-sen over the Tenkan-sen. It has been unable to get over the Tenkan-sen. If we do find buyers for the 10-year, we could come up and test the Tenkan-sen, which is currently at 126.095, where that would be a great place to initiate a short, in my opinion, if we do see some rejection of that level, if we do get up there. We're still in a downtrend here in candlestick terms. We had a lower high and a lower low on this candle, and then we had a lower high and we had an inside candle basically after that, and then a lower high and a lower low. So Um, so let's take a look at some grains. Let's look at corn. Corn has just been bouncing around underneath the cloud. After putting in it's still in a downtrend after putting in a lower high and a lower low. If we do find buyers, we could expect potential resistance here at this prior support turned resistance area, which was also in play other times in the past, you see, many other times in the past. So that level is 364, let's say. And then if we do get above that 364 level, we could find resistance again at 369.75. So keep an eye on that level as well. If we do get above that 369.75 level, then we could come up and potentially test the bottom of the cloud. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, if we come to it. Let's look at soybeans. Similar to corn, still bear flagging underneath the cloud. We are underneath the Tenkan-sen, so the Tenkan-sen will offer resistance at 877 if we do get some buyers for soybeans. Otherwise, we have this prior support area around 854. Let's just call it 854. So I expect the potential for a range between 854 and 877 to be pretty high on soybeans unless we can get over that 877 level. If we do get over the 877 level, we have this prior resistance area at around 907. Then we have resistance at the Chicow way up here at 944.63, but chances of us getting there is in a week is not that good. Let's look at wheat. Oops. Similar to corn and soybeans, wheat is, bearish under the cloud. Put in a very small candle last week with a lower low and a lower high. So in a downtrend at the moment, if we do get buyers, we can find potential resistance at this 477 area, which you see was in play previously. And then also this 486.88, this around 486, 487 area was also significant. Then 498.13, the Tenkan-sen will be in play as potential resistance if we do find buyers on wheat. Let's look at coffee. I noticed there was an article in Bloomberg published recently about how coffee was getting more expensive, but the chart still says that coffee is bearish, and despite the fact that it was able to put in a reversal and move higher, it did find resistance at the Kijun-sen here. It's very nice Ichimoku trading for coffee on the weekly time frame. So it's very important if you want to be bullish for coffee that it does put in a close on a weekly time frame over this Kijun-sen level. We have a lowering cloud coming into play into the new year, but we do have quite a bit of room for coffee to go higher before it hits the cloud in the near term. Once we get into the beginning of February, the cloud is around 136.97, which is obviously a prior area of resistance for coffee. Let's look at some live cattle, since I know some people that watch my videos are interested in this contract. We see that last week after putting in a real bullish candle the week before last week we put in a reversal. We were unable to get a close over the Kijun-sen, so we are actually we put in a close under the Kijun-sen. So the Kijun-sen is the important resistance level at 136.85. And if we do sell, we can potentially find support at the 132.038 level. So I expect pretty much a range trade in this area unless something more exciting happens for live cattle. Is there anything I have forgotten? Let's look at the dollar. Everybody wants to know about the dollar. The dollar is, let's see, so this is the new candle that's open up for the dollar. The dollar is bullish, obviously, in Ichimoku terms, and put in a close above the Tenkan Sen. And it's actually, so it's important to keep an eye on the Tenkan Sen level for this upcoming week of 98.91 is the resistance level that the dollar would need to get over if you want to see it go higher. If it does go higher, it could find support at that level. If not, I would expect a range trade between the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen. The Kijun Sen is all the way down at 96.56. So keep an eye on those levels for the dollar. We also have this level of 97.75, 65, 75 area, which is kind of key. In the past, you see multiple touches of that level as resistance, could potentially be support if we do get some selling on the dollar. And I'm going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you for watching, and just let you know that it's a great time to sign up to join my chat room. Some of my long-term members are on vacation, decided to take some time off, so there's less people in the room, which means I can give more attention to people that are new and really want to learn Ichimoku from the ground up. So anyway, it's great. If you're interested in checking out my service, you can check out my website at CloudChartist.com. There's information I have a special for $99 a month right now. $99 a month gets you access to me every day from 8 to 4, and one-on-one attention, and any kind of customized learning that would help you to learn the Ichimoku system, I'm happy to help out with. So once again, my website address is CloudChartist.com. Thank you for watching, and good luck this week and this year, and Happy New Year to all.